the burned part, like, can you think of a story where, or a time in your businesses where you know, a mistake you made that could have even been a really crucial mistake that you had to go back and course correct?
Yeah, so I used to be incredibly trusting of every employee because I am a great judge of character. You know, gosh, no one's going to pull the wool over my eyes. I've gone through hell. And so I'm starting a business, and I think we have something like 30 employees, and I love my employees, and I still do. Don't take the story the wrong way. I love the people on my team. And so we're running this 30 employees, and our marketing lady quits. And she goes, oh, I want to take you out for lunch. I really loved working here. I have this great opportunity. I'm like, you got to go for it. So she takes me out for lunch. She starts crying. And I'm like, wow, you really loved working with me. She's like, no, that's not why I'm crying. She goes, I feel so bad for you. I don't know if I should tell you. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, well, Bob, your VP of sales, is actually running his own company and competing with you. And I'm like, what? She goes, yeah. I go, but we're growing. She goes, yeah, I know, but every third order, he tells the customer we're not interested in the business. He sends it to another company, which he actually owns. I'm like, no, come on. That would never happen to me. Bob loves me. And she's like, you're such a nice guy. And so she leaves, and I'm thinking, oh my God, she's an idiot. So I go in the office and I bring Bob in. I'm like, you're not going to believe this story. I tell him the story, and I look at him, and he doesn't say anything. And I'm like, holy crap. And it was true. For a year, he was running a competing business, and he looks at me and he goes, well, you're going to find out eventually. Walks out the door, takes every one of our customers, and takes 3 of my other employees and has already been opened up. And so what I learned out of that experience is it didn't jade me. I love my people, but what I learned was I had no way to measure. It's good to love, it's good to trust, it's even better to know data. I wasn't even measuring the amount of inbound leads. He was literally, statistically, he was measuring the amount of leads that were coming in, and every third one, funneling it off to his own company. I had no idea how many leads were coming in. I would just look at the orders at the end of the month and say, well, you know, we were up this month over last month. We must be doing great. So what I learned out of that is knowing your data is really good. And that's the thing. I didn't understand the numbers in my business. And people, you know this, people misunderstand that. They think, oh, I have to know everything. You have to know the data that tells you how well your business is doing. It's like a human being. You got to know your heart rate. You got to know, if you get sick, what does the doctor do? He takes your temperature. He takes your pulse. What is the statistic that is the pulse of your business? And every business in this room is different. For me, it's a variety of different things because the business is so big now. For you, it's different stuff. Somebody here who has a brand new startup, it's probably client acquisition.
Right.
Somebody that's in a service business, it's probably upsell rate from an existing customer. You got to know what that pulse is, and it's different for everybody.
Did the situation with the guy, did it change the way you hire, or did it change the way you look at employees? I know you said look at data more, but
no,
did it change? Trust?
Well, it really made me pretty bitter for a little while. And then I kind of got to a point where I said, I will either let this situation jade me, or I will get smarter about it and keep going. And I'm not a bitter guy. I'm not my expectation is that, there's a great saying I have above my desk, written in granite, and I have to give Mark Cuban credit for this, because one time I said it to an audience, somebody in the audience knew Mark, and called Mark, and Mark calls me and goes, "Why are you using my quote?" And so he said this on the show, and so I had it written in granite. It's above my desk, and it says, "Every day, somebody wakes up with the sole intention of kicking your ass." And I really believe that. And the bigger you get, the bigger the bullseye on your back. But that doesn't mean I need to become bitter. Doesn't mean I need to become jaded. I still hire people. I still have full faith in my employees. I love our team. But I know the data.
Yeah. Can you talk about growing a business from starting to hitting the first, the 7-figure to the 8 to the 9? Can you talk about the difference? And I know you're going for the billion. So how does each milestone change for you in the direction and the strategy of your business in growing?
It's a great question. I'm curious to see what the crowd thinks too. So I started my current business 13 years ago, and we thought we were going to do $5 million in sales in the first year. We ended up doing 400,000. Everything that could have gone wrong, including macro factors, went wrong. So we had to retool, repivot, and we ended up doing 400,000. It took us 5 years to get to 6.2 million in sales. This year we'll do 200 million. We started with 2 employees. We now have about 300. And so our next phase is we want to get to 500 million in the next 24 months. And we have a game plan to get there. Biggest difference? The stuff I'm willing to let go. It is, I am a absolute control freak. I go to these seminars where people are like, "You don't want to be a control freak." I'm like, that guy's never run a business. Because if you run a business, you better be a control freak. I want to run everything. But as you get bigger, there are certain things you have to be willing to let go, but still take the responsibility for them. So people misunderstand that. They say, when I heard that first salesperson, I'm going to let sales go. No, you're still responsible for sales, but you have got to offload some of that responsibility. When you hire an accountant, I can't tell you how many small business owners I go up to and I go, "How did you do last month?" Like, "Oh, I don't really know. I wait for the statements." And I'm like, "Hey, just because you have an accountant, you better, if you wake me up at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, 'How's your month going?' I'll tell you. I can't give you the minutia, but I know how we're doing. I know where we're going. I know what the quarter is going to look like." And so it's being willing to let stuff go, which is really hard for me. When I first started the business, I remember this. I walked in one time, and there was like 4 employees, and I saw 2 staplers. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Who authorized buying a second stapler? That's ridiculous. We can all share 1 stapler. Take that stapler back. At 200 million, I accept the fact we have too many staplers. I accept the fact we're losing money as we speak. We're probably overspending on certain things and not spending enough on others. But, the bigger the company gets, you have to be careful where you spend your time, what's more critical, and the people that you touch every day need to become more critical to you. So I don't really run 300 employees. I don't really run anybody. I have a great team of people. On a daily basis, I probably interface with about 7 people. And that's my core team.
So how has your philosophy on leadership changed over the time too as you grow? Have you changed because when you're kind of a control freak, it's more management versus leadership, right? You're kind of telling them what to do. How have you evolved?
I think I've always been a pretty good leader and not a very good manager.
Okay.
So I think you've got to be, I have this saying, I say the biggest lies in life that we tell are the ones we tell ourselves. So I've always been able to look in the mirror at myself and say, before I look in the mirror, I always think that I'm Brad Pitt. When I look in the mirror, when Robin Williams was alive, a lot of people used to mistake me for Robin Williams. And one time I met, and I used to think that was a real compliment. And then one time years ago, I was at an event, and Robin Williams was doing a show, and I was in the front row. And I thought he was so funny and, good looking from afar. And then we were leaving the show, and the security guy comes and says, "Oh, Mr. Williams would like to see you backstage." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so exciting." So I go backstage, and he comes up to me and goes, "You freaked me out so much. You look so much like me." He goes, "Can I get a picture with you? Because I want to send it to my mom." And I'm like, "Sure." So I'm like, "Oh my God, I look like a famous movie star." And then I get next to him, and I look at him, and he's 12 years older than me, he's shorter than me, and he's the hairiest human being in the world. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm not Brad Pitt, I'm Robin Williams. And so you got to be honest with yourself. And I'm not a great manager. As the company's gotten bigger, I've had to learn how to manage, but I've always been pretty good at leadership because my life has been such hell. Just in the process of having to inspire myself every day, I've been pretty good at pulling other people along.
What do you define as success? Like when you think of yourself as successful, so many people would be a businessman, all this. What is it to you?
So my first definition of success was, and still is paying my rent. And however you define that. When I started out, it was literally paying my rent. Today, it's being able to have the company make a profit. If you can't pay your rent, you don't deserve the right to do anything else. And that's one thing my dad always taught me, because my dad said, "What you going to do in life?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to be a famous actor. I'm going to be on TV one day. Or I'm going to be a detective. Or I'm going to join the FBI." And he'd listen and he goes, "It's all good. Rule number 1, pay your rent." You can't pay your rent. I mean, you got to survive. Especially, no one is going to take care of you. And as you get older, you got to take care of your family. So while you may want to, conquer the world, and you may want to get a new office lease, and you may want to buy a new house, or you may want to take an MBA, or you may not be fulfilled in life, or you may not be happy today. Those are all really interesting, but you got to pay your rent.
Right.
And so I think that's been the first thing for me, is always, what does that mean? And in our business, we got to break even. If we're not breaking even and we're not making a dollar, we're not breathing. And then, every business is a little different, because we're not, when if you want to build a factory, you have to actually first build the factory. We're in a business where we can sell stuff and then build it. But that was by design, because I had no capital. I couldn't get into a business that required capital. Right? So that was another reality. I didn't want to go into the computer business. I wanted to go into the real estate business. And so I went and sat with a friend of mine who was in real estate, and I said, "How do I make money in real estate?" He goes, "You buy a lot of land and you develop it." I'm like, "Well, how do I do that?" He goes, "Well, you have your grandfather come over here in the 50s and buy a lot of land." I'm like, "Oh, that's not me." And so I had to find a business that doesn't require capital to start. And that's why I love technology. Technology, you don't need capital. You just need a customer. You need a technology. You need something.
How does it change from building your own, the herjavec group, to now you're investing? As a control freak, I cannot, and I've done this, I've invested and got burned, but you are giving your money to somebody and you're saying, "Here you go, I trust you, I can't, I only have so much control." How does it change, and how do you, as a control freak, handle that?
Boy, Aaron, that's been really hard. Yeah, and I've had to let it go, because it's not my business. I'm a great operator, and I'm much more interested in running a business than I am investing in a business. I'm probably the only shark that way. The other sharks are much more, that's how they make a living. I'm the only guy on the panel that actually runs a business. not that they can't, but that's what I do every day. And so at the beginning, it was really hard because I want to know what you were doing, what's going on, what are you going to do with it? Now I accept the fact it's your business. And I want updates, I want to know what's going on, and if I don't like where it's going, we're going to put a lot of pressure on you to go this way. But it's up to you. That's why it's so critical to invest in the right entrepreneur, right? Because a great leader can take a bad business and fix it. A bad leader can take a good business and run into the ground. So we always invest in the jockey.
Okay, interesting. What would you say has been, as you're growing, any things you wish you would have known looking back?
Yeah, great question. I did an interview for Wall Street Journal one time, and the theme of this story was, what would you have done different? And my whole thing always was, nothing. There's nothing I would have done different. I'm a sum of all my mistakes, and the reporter's like, okay, you're not getting the story. The theme of the story is, what would you have done different? Give us something. And so I thought about it, and I wish I would have believed that the sun was going to shine tomorrow. I am a bundle of fear and doubt and uncertainty, and I used to live in constant fear of everything. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't get up and do this. I always thought, oh my gosh, if there's 20 things that could go wrong tomorrow, all 20 are going to happen to me. And so I had this sense of desperation to survive, which is really good when you're starting. But you have to have faith that the sun is going to shine tomorrow, that it's going to work out. And as I've gotten bigger, I've gotten more of that. You know, for a long time with our current business, I didn't think we were going to make it. I used to literally every year and say, gosh, I hope we don't go away this year. I hope we don't go. And, you know, eventually, you can't think that way anymore. You have to think, here's the goal, and we're definitely going to get there. And so what I do is I try to constantly push myself into different things because I never want to lose that sense of fear or hunger. I don't live in desperate fear anymore, but I constantly try to do things that scare the crap out of me. And, you know, I used to race cars, and people say, oh, you must love racing cars. And I'm like, I just crashed a car at 200 miles an hour and broke 3 ribs. That's scary. But in a weird way, it kind of really motivated me. It's like, I don't want to do that again. You know, it's one of the main reasons I did Dancing with the Stars.
That worked out for you. The sun was shining on that one.
Yeah, but you know, I'd never danced.
Right.
When I first met, the way the show works is you have a celebrity and you have a professional partner. And my partner was Kim, and she was the world ballroom champion. And so I show up, and she's like, hey, welcome, blah, blah, blah. Show me how you dance. I'm like, I don't really dance. She's like, okay. You're at home by yourself. The music comes on. How would you move? I'm like, I don't get the question. I don't know where you're going with this. So that's how we started. You have 3 weeks to learn the first dance. At the end of 3 weeks, I'm like, oh my God, I might be the best dancer that's ever been on this show. I don't know why Kim's been doing this since she was 3, because it's easy. And then the day before the first show, you go to the studio, which you've never seen before. You walk in and you go, oh my God, there's 1,000 people live. 15 million people watch at home. Producer comes out and says, oh, thank you very much for coming. And by the way, I want to remind you, this is a live show. You're like, oh, I get that, it's a live show. And he goes, what I mean by that is, if you fall down, the camera's on you. And you're like, holy crap, it's a live show. because our show's not live. Shark Tank, we show up, we sit there, people come out. The average pitch in front of us is an hour and a half. And we just ask questions. We know nothing about them. It gets edited into 7 minutes when you watch at home. But there's no script, there's nothing. This was live. And so that was scary. Like that, you know, as somebody who doesn't do live TV, that was really scary. So it's good, you know, it's good to constantly push yourself and try things that make you a little, when you get really comfortable in life and you think, you know, and we all have those days, right? When you're driving to work and the sun is shining and you're in your new car and you're like, oh yeah, baby, I got this. You know something's going wrong. Like, and if you're that comfortable, it's the beginning of the end. You've always got to have that edge about you in order to grow.
So what's scaring you currently, or what's on the horizon of the pushing yourself? Anything?
Yeah, you know, what's scary for us is now we're trying to go global. We built the company to about 100 million in Canada, and to give you an idea, and we thought we were it. We're like, yeah, high five, you know, we're the big guys. And then we realized our closest competitor in Canada was 15 million a year. And so first we thought, oh, we are crushing those guys. And then we thought, hang on a second. They're 15 million, we're 100. The gap is too big. And nobody bigger than us, all we do is security, and everybody bigger than us sold things we didn't care about. So I remember clearly this moment of like, yeah, we killed it, to like, oh my God, we're going to go away. Like, we've maxed out the market. The population of Canada and the GDP of Canada is roughly equal to 62% the state of California.
Wow.
And so 3 years ago, we did 1% of our sales outside of Canada. This year it'll be 40%. So what's scary for us now is growing outside of our comfort zone. And what we've realized is, you know, for you to grow your business outside of Plano or to grow it outside of Texas, rule number one is you actually have to go there. Because we just assumed, well, you know, if we're great at what we do, won't the Americans just call us? You know, won't people just beat a path to our door? What do you mean we have to go out and find people? And so now we're growing in the States, in England, we're looking to buy a company in Dubai, all that kind of stuff.
That's great.